Alright guys, bit of a different video today. I wanted to go through the games that I've got the most playtime with on PSVR2. Now, a couple of caveats to this. I think it's interesting to see just, how much time I've got out of games. It does give an indication, of course, of how much you enjoy it, but it isn't a definitive list for these are the best games, because of course there are some games that are amazing and leave a huge impact on you and you enjoy and that you would put in a top 20 games list, but only took a few hours to complete. Propagation Paradise Hotel is one of those games, for example. It only takes around 4 hours really to complete, and yet it is easily one of the best VR experiences that I've had. So that's not on this list. But I still think it's interesting to go down because there's some surprising entries there on the list of games that have got a lot of playtime. So yeah, not a definitive best of, but this is a list of the games that I've spent the most time with on PSVR 2. Another caveat is that this is only games that I've played on PSVR 2. There are other games that are still available on PSVR 2 that were also out on PSVR 1. It doesn't log for this list. I haven't looked at the PSVR 1 playtime. I've just gone by what shows up as playtime on the PSVR 2 specifically. So it's a list of 20, although there are technically 21 games in the list, and that's because the bottom 3 all have the same number of hours logged. So I'll start at the bottom. So tied for number 20, we've got Synapse on 11 hours. It's a roguelite, it's designed for repeated play, of course. That's one of the main benefits of roguelite games, is you get a hell of a lot of legs off of a game with relatively small amount of content. Synapse is just so fun. It's one of the most VR AF games there is. It is the best use of eye tracking in any gameplay mechanic in VR, and that is, of course, it gives you this sort of telekinesis ability where you sort of just look at items and then you can move them around and throw them enemies and this stuff just by looking at items and then picking it up with your controller. It works superbly. It's a really fun game, and I still haven't finished it. Although people have complained about the length of it, there's not enough content, there's only a small amount of baddies, and only really is it 4 or 5 levels technically in the game, but you've got to go through them multiple times to get the upgrades, and then you've got to complete the set of levels that are in there. You've got to complete that 3 times, and it goes up in difficulty. So the sort of ending is after you've completed it a 3rd time, apparently. But 11 hours for that. Brilliant game. Tied for 20th place in this list is 7th Guest, also at 11 hours. Amazing puzzle game. Of course, it's a remake of an older game that was out many years ago on PSVR 2, especially since the updates. At launch, it was a bit blurry, apparently. There was a couple of issues, but now it is beautiful in the headset, and it's just fantastic puzzle gameplay. It's that perfect balance of, the puzzles are almost getting frustrating, and then you figure out how to do it and you feel like a genius. But really good puzzles, lots of variety, situation-based environmental puzzles. Really atmospheric, great spooky atmosphere. I love that kind of thing. That is on 11 hours as well, and that's complete. And I can't see me going back to that game, well, for a very long time, let's say, because you've got to forget the solutions. Hopefully at some point I will forget the solutions to these puzzles and be able to go through it again, because it's so good. Okay, also on 11 hours is Cosmo Dread. It's another roguelite. This one's sort of horror themed. It's obviously got some inspiration from Dead Space, and you can see that coming through in some of the weapons, and it's a really brilliant upgrade system. Really addictive looting and upgrading system, like all good roguelites. I think it was a one-man dev team or two, very, very small independent dev team that made this game, but it is extremely fun. And don't sleep on this. You know, it doesn't look like much if you watch a video on YouTube, but in the headset it runs really well, very smooth. I think it's 90 hertz native, and just very compelling, very addictive gameplay loop. Next one is No Man's Sky at 12 hours, which is a tiny fraction of the amount of time that you really need to spend with this game to get the most out of it, or to feel like you're even getting anywhere at all. I don't feel like I've got anywhere with this game yet. It's one of those where I've started it several times, gone through the initial phase, enjoyed what I've done, but not really got very far. And it's just one that I'm afraid is going to stay on the back burner, going to stay on the to-do list for quite a long time. And at this point, I'm thinking I may as well just wait until they declare that that game is finished, that no more updates are coming, no more significant updates. Because at some point they're going to focus on the next game. I've forgotten what that's called. But No Man's Sky just obviously keeps raising the bar, the amount of content that it's got in there. I don't play multiplayer, so I don't really need to get in on these events that it has, you know. It's a game that I know I'm going to enjoy when I do actually get around to investing a good amount of time in it. At the minute though, it is on 12 hours. And bearing in mind that I've barely scratched the surface, that's a number that's going to raise up in the future quite a lot. Next is Cactus Cowboy Desert Warfare on 13 hours. A very low budget looking game, but don't sleep on this. Don't be put off by its graphics. It is a very fun, full length campaign first person shooter with some good mechanics. I actually really enjoy the shooting mechanics of this game. It has like a shoot and dodge system going on, so that's, I always think when you're able to dodge bullets in VR, it's just really fun and immersive. So this game has that. It has some upgrades, you know, looting, collecting cash for upgrades, that kind of thing. It's got some good humor in it, but yeah, it's just a good length. Like I said, 13 hours, and I'd recommend it. I really would. It's, like I said, very simple looking, very low budget, one man dev team. But with that in mind, you obviously give it some leeway, and as a game, it is just fun. If you want a first-person shooter, it's not a bad one. The next is Horizon Call of the Mountain on 14 hours, and that's of course a campaign. So I've played through that. There's still more to do. There are challenges, and I'm definitely going to go through it again at some point and try and 100% it. This is a game that I want to get the platinum for. It is beautiful in the headset, plays fantastic, really fun, really immersive. I actually really enjoy the climbing aspect of it, which some people complain there's too much of, but climbing, as many people already know, is just really effective as a VR AF activity, because you're using basically your whole body. I was using my whole body. I was even kind of pretending to lodge my feet up on bits of the mountain as I was climbing. Yeah, there was some criticism of this game because it wasn't a full-length Horizon game, but for what it is, it's up there with Half-Life Alyx as a VR showcase. And of course, it showed off just how much more powerful VR can be through the PS5 compared to standalone, and even compared to PC a lot of the time. But 14 hours in Call of the Mountain, that's the main campaign finished. I am definitely going to go back to it though. Next is Red Matter 2 on 16 hours. Again, obviously that's a campaign that is completed, and it's another one where it's going to be a long time before I go back to that, because you really want to wait until you've forgotten solutions to puzzles and stuff like that. But I do want to go back into it at some point in the future. But beautiful game. What's been said about Red Matter 2 already, everybody knows. It's just one of the most technically amazing, visually astounding VR games. Those guys are wizards at squeezing out as much performance as you can get from a machine. Yeah, beautiful. The next game is Tales of Onogoro at 17 hours, and I haven't finished it yet. I'm very near the end. I think I might be at the last boss or thereabouts. It's like a succession of bosses all together at the end. I think I'm at that bit. But another really cool game. And I'm glad I waited till this was on PSVR2 to get to it, because then you've got the better controls and the rest of it, slightly better performance. But it's, yeah, an adventure puzzle game. And the puzzling is awesome. It's another one that nails that balance of being just difficult enough that you don't start to get frustrated by it, and you know, you feel like you've actually figured something out and been a bit clever when you do get the puzzles. And it's got some action, it's got a little bit of shooting. It's got this great mechanic where you sort of manipulate another second character that helps you solve the puzzles, and it's just really charming. Very cool game. Yeah. Next is Dyschronia, Tales of Kronos. So this is on 17 hours as well. I haven't finished it, and I don't think I'm going to either. It's a detective game, and I absolutely love detective games. You know, I did enjoy this for the most part, but it started to become so frustrating that I'm not sure I'll even bother trying to go back to it, because it's very stop and start as well. There's a lot of sort of black loading screens between areas, so that gets a little bit irritating. There's some unskippable conversations and stuff, unskippable scenes. But the thing that's most irritating about it is that you're basically looking for evidence, looking for clues, trying to solve a crime, right? And you spend most of the game investigating the clues. Then it comes to these sort of like the court case hearing, right? When you get to the hearing, when you actually present your case, you have to remember all the details of the things you've been investigating. And if you've missed anything and you haven't got the right options available to you on the court case day, then you have to redo the whole thing again. And I've been through that a couple of times on the second chapter, and it's laborious. So unfortunately, although I did enjoy the majority of my time with it, it feels like too much of a slog now to go back, that I've sort of hit this wall on the second chapter. But that's at 17 hours, and I think it's staying there, to be honest. Next one, completely opposite. Stilt on 18 hours is one of the best games I've ever played, full stop, not just VR. It's a first-person platformer, and it is the closest thing we've got to Mario in VR, in my opinion, because the feel of it, the cute, the sort of the charming nature of it, the power-ups, the movement, the freedom of movement, the feel. It just feels so responsive and solid, and it makes you feel like a badass, because you can really get good at movement in such a way that it can be very subtle. You can do very small, subtle movements if you need to, and you feel fully in control at all times. So it's just really fun. Cannot recommend Stilt highly enough. If you haven't got that yet, you're doing VR wrong. It's really cool. It takes a few minutes to get used to that locomotion method with the two, obviously, stilts. But once you do, you're locked in. It is one of the coolest games you can get for VR. Next is Gran Turismo 7 on 19 hours. Even though I'm on 19 hours already with this, I have not scratched the surface, really. I've done a good amount of the passports, but there's a lot more to do. There's an infinite amount to do, really, isn't there? But I've still not really played this online, and there's a lot of stuff that I haven't done. There's a lot of cars that I want to get. And I'm not even a sim racer. I've never been a fan of sim racers. But the experience of this in VR is so compelling that I've spent 19 hours in it already on a genre that I've never had any interest in. So that tells you something. Gran Turismo, along with Horizon Call of the Mountain, are two games I really hope get a PS5 Pro update, because whilst they both look gorgeous already, the prospect of the Pro increasing performance even more, potentially 90 or 120 Hz native refresh rate, stuff like that, we could be seeing some ridiculously gorgeous VR on PS5 Pro if we get those updates. So that's Gran Turismo on 19 hours. Next one is Walkabout Mini Golf on 20 hours. And yeah, this is just so fun. I've only ever played this single player. People love it multiplayer. I just don't tend to do that. I don't have it doesn't fit my gaming schedule really to do that and situation. But this is a game that they keep adding, of course, more courses to. So there's just a huge amount of DLC at this point, and it's just really just works perfectly. Really fun, really smooth, awesome. Walkabout on 20 hours. Next one is Genotype on 21 hours. Fantastic adventure game. It has sort of, what did you say? It's got roguelike elements to it. There's a lot of upgrades, let's just say that. There's a fantastic upgrade system. It's not a roguelike, no, it's not a roguelike, I don't think. Is it? Or is it a roguelike? You've got randomized levels. It's really atmospheric, great performance, good graphics, good atmosphere, and it's quite difficult because at times, well, the difficult element of it is that it doesn't hold your hand all the time in telling you what needs to happen next, where you need to go. So sometimes you really have to work to sort of figure out where you need to go next, and that's satisfying when you get past those moments. I really enjoyed my time with Genotype. I would recommend that, definitely. Great weapons, lots of variety in the different weapons and upgrades that you can get. So yeah, really cool game. And I've finished that one. Next game is Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge at 23 hours. I had so much fun with this. One of my most immersive VR moments ever has been in this game, where the simple act of looking up at my hand against the sky in game, and I felt like I was there for a second, you know. There's just something about certain perspectives in VR, it makes you really feel like you're there. Bit of that might have helped as well, you know what I'm saying? But cool game. Yeah, I really like the sort of hub system that it operates from. You're at the cantina and then you can select missions from there, and great performance, good graphics. Had a significant upgrade for the PSVR2 version of it. So Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge at 23 hours. Alright, the next one is Resident Evil 8 Village at 25 hours, and that is completing the main campaign just the once. So 25 hours it took me to get through that game. What can be said? Beautiful adventure, great fun. Everyone knows it's Resident Evil Village. 25 hours, definitely going to go back to that, and it's another one that I hope for a pro patch, because at this point I may as well wait to see if that does happen, and I'll play through it again at some point in the future with no reprojection and potentially a slightly higher resolution you could probably get out of that game, although it also already still looks beautiful. The next one is Arcade Paradise at 26 hours, and that is played to completion. The air quotes, because there is a sort of end game point, but you can carry on playing after that. Once you've built your arcade, you can obviously still go into it and still play all the games in it, but I didn't really feel compelled to do that. I kind of felt like once I'd done the story of the game and finished all of the sort of and obtained all the sort of cabinets and upgrades you can get, I was pretty much done with it. I absolutely loved my time with it. Really fun. And I love the sort of trajectory it takes you on, where you start off in this sort of laundromat, and weirdly working in the laundromat is actually really fun. They gamify it to a point where it's actually fun to put those clothes in the washers and the dryers and save up your money. And you're slowly chipping away at building this sort of secret arcade out the back until it takes over and becomes the main business. And the arcades themselves, a lot of them are fun. They're obviously very, very simple, not a huge shelf life, but if you like retro games and you like VR and you haven't got this yet, what are you even doing with your life? Pause this video, go and get it now. I mean, this channel was founded on retro, it became VR. If there's a crossover audience, you need this game, Arcade Paradise. I'm not even shitting you. It's fantastic. 26 hours in that. I don't think I'll go back to it. I think I've experienced all I need to from that. Right, the next one is Cave Digger 2 on 28 hours. So I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed this game. It was a bit janky apparently on PSVR1, a bit janky on launch on PSVR2. It did get a significant number of performance upgrades and some content upgrades. Basically, when I got to it, by the time I got to it, it was firing on all cylinders. Again, a very simple looking game, simple graphics, multi-plat, small team, but performance is great on PSVR2, smooth. And it's just really fun. It's a roguelite again, and it has that fantastic loot and upgrade cycle. It's just so compelling when it's done well, and it is done well here. Yeah, just mining through destructible walls, finding gems, upgrading your equipment, finding different ways to move around, like swinging on like a Spider-Man sort of vine sort of way. A very similar, just really, really cool game. Can be played multiplayer as well. I have never played this game multiplayer. Cave Digger 2 is on 28 hours and technically not finished it. I'll have to dip back in at some point and finish it off. Right, we are into the top 2, 3, 4. Well, that was number 5. This is the top 5. So at number 4, Ghost Signal on 34 hours. Another roguelite. And if you know anything about Ghost Signal, it's a game that, again, when you watch a video of it playing, you think, why is that in VR? It doesn't look very VR. You're basically in God mode controlling this spaceship in a defined, finite sort of area of space you can move around in, destroying asteroids, enemy ships, picking up power-ups, bosses, this kind of thing. But as it's a roguelite, you have to go through it and complete the campaign many times to get to the real ending. And I didn't actually get to the final ending. I got to about 2 cycles before you would get the real final ending, but it just got so difficult. I kind of lost patience with it, to be honest. That's probably on me. I probably could have persevered and got there, but it just got so difficult. I'd had enough by that point. 34 hours is not a bad tally for any game. I had a lot of fun with it, and I don't think I'll be going back into it to finish it off. But that's not to discount it. It is really well made, and it's actually just relaxing to be in there as well. And it's got a very tactile way of moving the ships around. You sort of put them on this trajectory, you plot a trajectory, and it'll start moving on that trajectory, and whilst it's doing that movement, you then basically decide which things it shoots at. So it's really cool. Ghost Signal on 34 hours. Also on 34 hours is Saints and Sinners 2 Retribution. Beautiful on PSVR2, and I think it's probably the most stark example of how much better a game can be when run through PS5 compared to standalone. I mean, obviously, but the point being, a lot of multi-plat games don't bother taking a huge advantage of the extra hardware. They will, most multi-plat games will develop for the lowest common denominator the least powerful system, and then you might get the odd little performance upgrade here and there. But for Saints and Sinners 2, they're like two different games in terms of graphics and performance. And on PSVR2 it's absolutely beautiful. Of course, the OLED panel with the nighttime missions, the pure blacks, really atmospheric, crystal clear in the headset, 90Hz native, no reprojection, all the rest of it, beautiful. The best gameplay, possibly the best VR gameplay that I've experienced, on par with one other, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, 34 hours, and that is to complete the campaign. So that's a good amount of hours on that game, and it was a satisfying ending. I did enjoy the last level, as for example, you're going through this office block and get to the top, you get to the sort of big baddie character, and you have to make a choice at the end of it. Really cool game. Saints and Sinners 2 Retribution, 34 hours. Okay, the top two now, by far and away my two most played games on PSVR 2 specifically are these, and it is at number 2 we have Light Brigade on 60 hours, another roguelite, obviously gun based, really atmospheric, amazing upgrade system, just so addictive, so compelling, cool levels. I don't know that I can say I've completed that. I've obviously got through the cycle of levels many times, and it's been a while since I've dipped into that. I don't know if they're continuing to add more stuff, but just so addictive. So addictive. I mean, that's it. That's all I can say. Light Brigade is on 60 hours, and for me that's a huge amount. There's only one game that I've played more on PSVR 2 over the last 1.5 years, right? Nearly 2 years, come February. So my most played game on PSVR 2 has been Ancient Dungeon on 63 hours. Another roguelite. This genre has really allowed small developers to maximize the amount of content, the amount of game time you can get out of games with a lower budget. And in the VR scene currently, which is almost entirely being propped up by small indie studios with smaller budgets, it's been essential for those studios to find a way to squeeze as much content as possible out of their limited budgets and still have, satisfied customers. So roguelites have really served a purpose on this generation. I'm not bored of them yet. When they're done well and they make it compelling and they make it feel like there is progression as you carry on doing this sort of similar cycle of gameplay, then it can continue to feel fresh for a long time. And if the gameplay itself is just fun and addictive. And that is very, very true of Light Brigade and Ancient Dungeon. My most played game at 63 hours, and it's a very simple looking game. It's sort of Minecraft style graphics, but again on PSVR 2, great performance. I think it might be 120 Hz native actually, very smooth, but it just does everything perfectly, like intuitively, smoothly. All the gameplay elements that it brings are just perfectly done. There's only a few different weapons you can choose, but the way that you use them, like I'm still learning techniques. I'm still learning tricks here and there, how to sort of defeat enemies or get through these levels unscathed. Huge amount of upgrades. I still haven't even unlocked all of the different sort of power-ups you can get at 63 hours. There's still a good number of upgrades I've never seen. And the guys have just announced recently that it's one very small team, they are adding more content to it very soon. So that's going to keep fresh for a good time to come. They haven't even added multiplayer yet, which is important for a lot of people. Again, not for me personally, but Ancient Dungeon at 63 hours is my most played game. So there you have it, guys. My most played games on PSVR2. Again, not a definitive best of list, but interesting nonetheless. Alright guys, see you in the next one. Bye bye.